Khanna, a Democratic congressman from the great state of California, among other things, co-chairman of Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign. Congressman, good to see you. You agree with Kelly that the chance of 8 to 11 million people getting green cards and amnesty is pretty low right now?
Well, we have a bipartisan framework that even President George W. Bush supported, that the House has passed, of Zoe Lofgren's bill, which would actually allow people to come on worker visas and then actually go back. And I don't understand why the Senate Republicans are opposed to that kind of common sense reform that the House has passed. There's also a long-term path to citizenship that I support. I do think that that is a hard lift. But it's mind-boggling to me that what we've passed in the House, which is basically George W. Bush's policy on worker visas, has not been passed because of Republican opposition in the Senate.
I'll take that as that it's unlikely that immigration is going to be part of the reconciliation package. But we move on. I'm interested in sort of where we are on this. Are you pretty frustrated as a progressive Democrat that there's 8 relatively moderate Democratic members of the House, 2 relatively moderate Democratic senators who are holding up the president's agenda?
I am frustrated that we can't get behind Joe Biden's agenda. I mean, I think you started out the show saying I was the co-chair of the Bernie Sanders campaign. There are things I want, like Medicare for all, free public college, that aren't in this plan. Joe Biden's calling the shots. This is Joe Biden's agenda, not Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren's agenda. So progressives can line up behind Joe Biden, who's the median of the Democratic Party. Why can't people who are to his right? And it is frustrating that the Democratic Party, that by and large 48 senators, over 210 House members, are behind the president, and a few people are holding out, but I believe the president will prevail.
And we know he's been twisting arms. Certainly the immigration crisis has not helped him. Latest immigration policy poll for the president, 57% not confident in President Biden's handling of immigration, 43% confident. Do you think that's because there's progressives who think he is too lax about immigration policy, or do you think it's a matter of incompetence?
I think immigration is a very, very difficult issue. It's been a difficult issue for every president. We have to have some common sense. I mean, we're a nation of borders. I believe in borders. We have to also enforce our laws on asylum and refugees. We've always been a nation that has had a process for asylum and refugees. Actually, the person who gave the most eloquent speech about immigration was Ronald Reagan's farewell speech, when he talked about us being a nation of immigrants and what that means for America. So in the case of Haitian refugees or asylum seekers, first we should work with other countries to enforce the first harm principle, which means that those seeking asylum need to go first to the nearest country. And if they are under harm and can be at safety in the nearest country, that's where they have to seek asylum. We need to do a better job of making sure that Haitians have other countries which they may be going to first and being there granted asylum. And then we do need to have the process if they do make it to the United States.
Congressman, you make such a great point about being a nation of laws. And if you're going to be a nation of laws, you've got to have a border. Here's the DHS secretary talking about that with Chris Wallace on Sunday.
Why didn't you stop them from coming into the country?
We did.
Why did you allow them in the country in the first place? Why didn't you build, forgive me, a wall?
We do not agree with the building of the wall.
Won't many of those thousands of people end up settling here in the United States, some of them permanently?
Chris, we have enforcement guidelines in place.
The statistics of your own department show that the flood of people coming illegally across the border has gotten worse under the Biden administration.
So I wouldn't call it a flood, Chris, if I may.
I think there's a lot of people down here in South Texas who'd certainly call it a flood, Congressman, but put the semantics aside. Other than President Trump being for it, is there any reason a wall is a bad idea in your mind?
Yes, I've never been for a wall. I don't think that would solve the issue. I don't think you're going to build a wall on the entire border. I mean, the Great Wall is not how we have 21st century. There could be technology solutions that I'm open to, but the real thing that will solve this is international agreements with other countries, so you have the first harm principle applied, and you actually have other countries recognizing asylum. The reason that they're all coming to the United States is other countries aren't giving them safe harbor or aren't having proper asylum law under international law. And we can have incentives for other countries, Mexico, other countries, to accept their fair share of asylum seekers.
Yeah. at least all the folks we talked to weren't too interested in staying to Mexico, but that's a conversation for a different kind. Congressman, appreciate you making the time, especially during votes, and I know it's going to be a busy week for you. We're going to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How many have been